Welcome to the Dream Plan Start Grow Show, where the goal is to provide you tips and tools to create and execute your business plan for success. Welcome back to the Dream Plan Start Grow Show. My name is Allison Turner. The purpose of the show is really to showcase other entrepreneurs on how they got their start, what challenges they've had, what successes they've had, what's worked for them, in hopes of educating someone that maybe wants to start a business or is new to business, and even people that have been in business for a long time, because I find I've been in business for 9 years and I still learn from most of my guests as well. So enjoy. Today, I'm super honored to have someone that I've been on his podcast. I can't remember what year, if it was last year or the year before. All the years are running together right now, but Aswand Cruickshank of Make Ya Move, excuse me. And then super honored to have you here. Thank you for joining me today.
Great to be here, Allison. And it was probably just approaching the year mark of the Move Swiftly podcast. And she absolutely, just for you listeners, I'll just get it out the way now. She absolutely killed it. Brought the energy, did her thing.
Yeah, now you and I met, I know, in a networking event here in where I live in Delray Beach, and you were one of the vendors, and I know you're an author, a podcaster. You, at the time, I think, were in the process of kind of launching the business a little more fully through the books and the podcasts and everything. So where are you now with everything? As I know we connect through chat sometimes, but we haven't really seen each other for a little bit. So I'd love to have an update on kind of what you're doing and how you're moving forward right now.
Yeah, so when we met, I had just put out my second book titled Make Your Move, which is a unique look into boxing, dance, and entrepreneurship. And I was just trying to get those books sold, going through the process of getting a second book out. It's very challenging to figure out who you want to work with and how you want to kind of posture and position your book. So I was just getting started as a teacher at a learning center. Since that time, I've switched centers and I'm now working at a center named Creative Center of Education, which is very, very much up my alley, because since that time I put out 2 other books. One's a coloring book, and the most recent book, the coloring book is named the Move Swiftly Coloring Book. Basically the same acronym that I came up with, now putting it into the format of a kid. And the most recent book is called The 6-Figure Athlete: Turning Your Skills into Cash. That is a co-authored book that I have recently come out with. And, all 4 of them have the same kind of theme in terms of sports marketing, using sports. I'm a former football player, a former high school football coach. I've dived into a ton of stuff when it comes to football. That's how I learned my left and my right. So everything I write about is really taking the lessons I learned on the football field and applying it to business and teamwork and how to teach people how to run a cohesive team. So at the moment, I'm currently at this new center that is brand new. We just opened 6 months ago. So there's just a lot of opportunities for growth. One of the main things about this center that attracted me to the center was that, they make it so kids know how to read from K through 12. And that's the main focus. So that's kind of update from where I was at that time to now. Just progressing, baby.
Yep. Well, that's what we all got to do as entrepreneurs, a little bit each day. So, and I know one of the things that attracted, I think maybe had us connected together, was that sports tie. I'm a former tennis player. I taught the sport for many years, played D1 tennis. I actually have clients now that are flag football clients. So they do flag football leagues and flag football tournaments. So I actually have clients on the football side of the arena, and they do some 7-on-7 tournaments. So I've learned the 7-on-7 route and 5-on-5 flag football stuff, which I didn't know anything about 6 years ago or whenever we started. But I think sports for me is such an important piece of the entrepreneurial journey, at least for me, because you learn so many lessons in sports that you can then use to further your own career. So how is football? You referenced a little bit of it, and then obviously how the football theme runs through everything you do right now, but how has that really taken your game to the next level?
Just understanding what the importance of teammates. I was incredibly blessed on two ends. I was incredibly blessed because I played for some incredible coaches, and because I had such great coaches, this is probably the reason I had such great coaches, because I had some great teammates. I don't know who's listening, but I would venture to say I had the best teammates of anybody can possibly ask for every time. So also one thing I didn't mention, but I do workshops for a company named Positive Coaching Alliance, in which we go to certain high schools and give workshops to high school coaches and high school athletes and things like that. And whenever I address a room full of coaches, I always tell them, look, I won the coaching lottery. I won the jackpot when it came to the kind of men I played for. I started playing at 7 years old for a organization named the White Oak Warriors, and they went on to become the only youth football organization to win a national championship at all five levels, from babies to 9 year old kids, all the way to the ones that were getting ready to go to high schools. We won a championship at all five levels, and then
Wow.
I went on to play on a school named Good Counsel High School, which I was coached by Bob Malloy, and he retired, I want to say about 6 years ago now, with the most wins of any high school football coach in Maryland. And then
Wow.
after that, I went and played at Carson Newman College for a guy named Ken Sparks, who, he is Carson Newman football. He was all about using football to teach us the word of God. He had us, he gave out Bibles and things like that. So we got
Wow.
closer in touch with God there. And my position coach actually was a guy named Carl Torbush, who went on to become a head coach. He was a head coach in North Carolina, a lot of these big schools, and he was really well known. And then I tore my ACL. I tore my ACL, and I had to move back home and work at a gym. And that's when I started to meet other football players that had kind of gone through the same thing. And it started to hit me, Allison, that, this game ain't gonna last forever. You better get a plan B, because you're not, I don't care. I mean, we're recording this on a day where even the great Tom Brady had to retire. So if you're a football player listening to me,
Yeah.
your career will end. Your career will end at some point. So after I worked at the gym for a year, I went on and walked on at Stony Brook, which was the Division I program in which I wanted to be at since I was in high school. And I had a sense of achievement once I got there. And I did 2 years there and finished off my bachelor's and got into scouting and coaching. And, like I said, every decision I made from then, good, bad, has been because I've I've soaked up so much of what my teammates had. I had some great teammates. I probably don't have time to get into all of them, but I had great teammates. Plus the guidance that I had with these coaches, man, where that's what they did. They didn't want another job. Every man that I mentioned just now as a coach didn't want another job. They were in that place where they were kind of in their dream situations, and it rubbed off on us as players.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, you made an interesting point. Your career does end. So whether it's, someone like you who gets injured playing and still in college versus someone like Tom Brady who has a long, super prosperous career with two different teams and, has established himself probably as the best quarterback ever at this point with at least with all the Super Bowl titles and his records and everything. Your career does end, and you have to have, I think, Peyton Manning has exhibited well, Eli Manning, of what that looks like a little bit after football, but a lot of football players don't, because, their main goal is, I got to make it. And I just finished, I don't know if you know Dr. Eric Thomas, that name, the speaker.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just finished his new book that came out recently, and just
Is it
finished like yesterday.
UOU or something like that?
Yeah, UOU. And he talks about that, how when he goes into football programs or he does something similar to you, and he works with athletes one-on-one, he's always like, at some point your career will end. It might happen in 6 months. It might happen in 5 years. It might happen. Football is usually a pretty short. Most players don't play until they're 40 something years old, especially quarterbacks. That's an unusual, very unusual scenario. So you have to have that plan B, where if you're making these multi-million dollar contracts, what are you saving? What are you spending? What are you, and then like, what's that next step afterwards? And some, I think Venus and Serena Williams have done a great job or did a great job, when with their careers where they went to school while they were playing professional tennis, they built businesses while they were playing professional tennis. Tennis wasn't the only thing they were doing. How they did it, I don't know, but because whenever you're in a sport, obviously almost 100% of your time is dedicated to that sport, whether it's your eating habits, your training, your team stuff, anything you do, you're watching films, whatever you're doing, but I think that's a key point. And then trying to, the way tennis is a little bit different is you were in a team sport. I was in an individual sport. So I bring out a little bit different. I find that I personally bring out a little bit of a different spin on what I finished with. So even when I went to college, I was on a team sport. My entire time prior to college was all individual. I mean, the high school tennis wasn't really a big thing for me. So, it was all individual. So it was like, where are you? What are you, but it's given me that drive of like, okay, here's the roadblock you run into, with tennis, and you practice and, go over that roadblock. And same thing in the entrepreneurial world. Here's the roadblock. Okay, do I need to go through this roadblock? Do I need to go around it? Do I need to take a different path? Whatever it is. So, I think sports can be a valuable thing. And your last title of your book, what was your the book that you just brought out, the 6-figure athlete?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that based on some of the college naming things that are going on with with college athletes nowadays?
Well, that was one of the reasons I agreed to do it. So the book project came about because of a former teammate of mine, a really, really good friend of mine. His name is Taj Deshawn. He actually wrote the foreword in my second book, Make Your Move. He, at the time, I believe he's still with him, but he was the vice president of a self-publishing company named Self-Publishing in 30 Days. And they do a ton of book projects. And he was basically hired to build out the vision of former athletes who tell their stories. So he had messaged me one day asking if I was going to be a part of the project. And this was about a year ago. And I was really kind of getting my footing in the education world. Like before I became a teacher, I was a trainer. I was a boxing trainer at a company named 9 Round, and I was working for the Dolphins. So I was really in fitness and athletics. When it came to actually being an educator, it took me some time to figure out what the best way it would be to distribute these books. So it became a solid opportunity for me. When it comes to the 6-figure athlete, my chapter in the book is titled Make a Connection, because I go really deep into my time being bankrupt. I lost everything, Allison. At one point, I lost literally everything. Car got repossessed, didn't have money to pay my phone. I lost absolutely everything trying to start up this minor league team in Ocean City named the Ocean City Sharks. And I go into the difference between revenue generating and money making business, because as an athlete, I had no idea the difference between the two. And I talk a lot about that in the 6-figure athlete. Now that you have the opportunity to make money when you're playing college athletics, it is crucial now to know this language, to know, if I was playing and I had the opportunity to make money, man, I joke with Taj all the time about that. I was like, we would be cleaner because our mindset, but we weren't allowed to do it back then. But
no.
Nowadays, these young kids have the opportunity. And that's why if you're an athlete listening, I strongly, strongly recommend you get a copy of the 6-figure athlete. You can get it on makeyourmove.com. It's very, very important that you just understand that it really is about a mindset.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And I think that the whole entrepreneurial journey, obviously athletics is definitely about a mindset, but I think the whole entrepreneurial journey is all mindset. Just like they said in tennis when I was growing up, 80% of the sport is really mindset. Obviously you have to have the talent, you have to have the work ethic, you have to have all that stuff. But, once you have, like, if you're leveled that way, the rest is mental. If you're going head to head with this person here, and, this person here has like the better mental side and mental toughness, they're the ones that are going to come out on top more times than not. Same thing, in football or whatever sport, but it's also the same thing in the, the entrepreneurial journey. You have to have that mindset of, never say die. Like, well, what's the workaround? Because stuff comes up, just like the pandemic came up, and out of, nowhere, no one predicted it. You saw restaurants closing, you saw people like figuring out how to pivot, so you saw the ones that survived, figured out what to do and pivot and how to think outside the box. and make it work,
Mhm.
because they couldn't do the traditional way of business, especially if you were in like a different state than where we are. You know, you were in New York, or
Mhm.
California. I mean, even the flag leagues I worked in California, I mean, they were completely shut down. So like one of them figured out he could go into like a private facility, which weren't, you know, because a lot of times they would play in public parks, schools, public schools,
Mhm.
you know, so all the ones that were dictated by the protocols of the government, you know, but he's like, you know, he figured out he could go around that a little bit with some of the private facilities. He could do, you know,
Yeah.
but you had to think outside the box of like, okay, how can this continue to work so we can push
Mhm.
through until things open up again? And,
Right.
you know, he was able to do it. And, you know, I think that's really that heart of an athlete. I mean, he played football in high school and college too. So, you know, it's that heart of an
Mhm.
athlete of like, how do you figure that out? And it doesn't have to be, you know, you don't
Right.
have to have the athletic background by any means. Obviously, you and I have that in common, but it could be a whole different
Mhm.
ball game. I mean, you could be in the arts, you could be in whatever, you know, as long as you have that something that's fueling you and that drive,
Right.
that's really, you know, what's necessary. Um,
The,
so
the the passion is key, man. Passion is
yeah,
huge. I mean, you brought up the pandemic, and that is actually when my podcast started. I was going to Toastmasters a lot, and I'm working on my speeches. I'm developing as a public speaker, and then boom, COVID happened. So I had all these speeches in my head, and it's like, all right, well, who am I going to give them to? So I just hit the record button, and now I'm over 300 episodes.
wow, 300. That's awesome. I mean, I've heard that most people
Over
don't make over
300.
50. You know, if they get to 50,
Yeah.
that's huge. You know, because I think I'm on
Mhm.
40, I want to say. I think I'm right around 40. Like the one I'm releasing hopefully today is right around 40, 39, 40, somewhere in there. So, yeah, I think, you know, the
And it's important.
consistency.
Yeah,
Go
well,
ahead.
I was just about to say the word. You beat me to it. No, I was literally about to say consistency. So yeah, you cut me off on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other thing, like you've done a great job at, is doing, you know, live videos, or, you know, videos where you've recorded yourself and posted on, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook, or, you know, wherever else you're posting. I usually see them on LinkedIn. You know, but
Right.
because I always stop and listen, because I'm like, oh, you know, there he is, like doing, like, let's see what the message for today is. You know, you're usually walking
Yeah.
along doing some kind of exercise, and I'm like, I should probably do it that way. You know, like kill two birds with
But
one
listen,
stone.
Allison, I can't take credit for that. I honestly can't
No,
take credit for that because listen, if anyone is listening to me right now, all right, make sure, especially one of the things us as entrepreneurs we get caught up in is sometimes we feel like we don't need coaching. But and you know this, I paid for coaching. I paid to be a part of a mastermind with a guy
yep,
named Dre Baldwin. And I might have sent you his stuff, but I'm getting BITC. I don't know if we're allowed to cuss on here, but I'm getting smacked around. Like he's poking holes in my business. He's scrubbing my Insta. He's like, you don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have this. And when I told him, look, I want to be a full-time speaker, he looked at my account. He goes, I see no videos of you actually speaking on camera. And this happened in July. The next day, I was like, oh, hell no. So every day now, because so actually this weekend I'm going to his live event, and I've met him in person once, and I'm so excited to go to his live event. But again, I'm sure you'd agree, and entrepreneurs, make sure you pay for coaching because it's only so far you can take yourself. At
yeah,
some point, you got to find someone that's gonna pull out the baseball bat on you and say, hey, you are not even close to where you need to be. So
right,
the video started from a place where it's like, wait a minute, if somebody else is out there doing it, I need to be doing it.
yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, I
So
think
shout out
that's
to
one of
Dre
the
if you
things.
listen to
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, you know, when I decided in 2021, I'm like, oh, it might be good to speak more, you know. So that's when I joined
Yeah.
Toastmasters, like you were in Toastmasters,
Uh-huh.
and then that's where the
Yep.
podcast came out of. And originally when I started this podcast back in 2020, it was just me speaking with only audio, and I was mirroring it off a business coach up in Ohio that I sometimes would listen to his podcast, and they were short, you know, 10, 12 minutes. He would do it every single day. I was like, how does this guy do it every day? I mean, it's just audio. It wasn't
That's
video, but it was every single day. The guy had done, I don't even know how many thousands of these stupid things. I don't know if he's still doing them or not, but, and he would just liken like normal experiences to business. Like he's like, oh, I was in
mhm.
church and this happened. And then like he would pull it back into the business world. And, he had like a really good way of doing it. So when I started the podcast in 2020, because I saw the opportunity from the business coaching perspective of there's going to be a lot of new businesses coming out now. This pandemic hit in March. There's going to be these opportunities, people losing jobs. They're going to have to start, some of them are going to start businesses. There's the opportunity. So I started and I did like 5 or 6 episodes, and it was a struggle for me just to get out one a week. And it was like a short 10-minute. I mean, I wasn't even on video. So there was no way in hell I would have done video back then. Like no way in 2020. And so then, fast forward.
That's how it was for me when I was starting off.
Yeah.
It was incredibly challenging, but again, it's I can't tell you the importance. That's why I'm so appreciative of you and just having me on. Other entrepreneurs need other entrepreneurs. Just put it that way. It's very important that we don't. Yes, we're gonna compete, but we gotta make sure that we have a community. Just like I went to the networking event, it is so important that we're around other people with that energy, because there's such a small percentage of people that.
Right.
First of all, even want to be an entrepreneur. Secondly, the ones that actually are willing to go through what it takes and then still say they want to be an entrepreneur. And then the ones that actually become full-time entrepreneurs. That is such a rigid process. So the support, man, I can't tell you how important, how imperative the support is, man.
Right. No, I mean, it is. And I think, if you come from the place where there's plenty of business for everyone, I mean, we met with, I do business coaching, but I also own a marketing company. So like we met with this other person that owns a marketing company in the same area. And I mean, there's plenty of business. Like we were talking about how could we potentially collaborate, and make each of our brands stronger. I mean, that's what we were coming from, so I think that's the important thing. And like you said a minute ago, like education. So whether you're working with a coach, whether you're going to conferences, I mean, I was just at Grant Cardone's business boot camp conference last week.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, down in Hallandale. It was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, I got a ton out. So I mean, it actually forced me to kind of think through some things because you're around other people that are leveling their game up. So you're in that room with all these people. Then you're talking to. I mean, I talked to somebody that was creating from Europe that was creating a compound that would replace cement. Like, he's like, we're just testing it now. Like, I mean, I'm talking to this guy and he's like, we're in the testing phase, and then the next thing is we're going to be building a house with it. And, and after that we'll start marketing, assuming all goes well with this whole testing thing. I mean, that's what he's like, I'm just like, where'd you come up with that? And he's trying to get a patent on it and all this stuff. And,
it's amazing, man, to know that that's how it works. And it's also sad sometimes to think about the way some folks look at entrepreneurs as like sketchy, like though as salespeople, the bad rap that we get sometimes. But it's amazing to know that everything that people enjoy in this world has been made because of an entrepreneur. And if you rest in that kind of in that mindset, then you won't have to worry about the naysayers and things like that.
Well, and if you look at the numbers, it's more small business owners than anyone else. It's just people don't realize that it is, because you've got an Amazon out there, you got a Walmart, you got a Walgreens, you got, you have the big box stores that probably started as a entrepreneurial venture. I mean, Amazon, when it came out, was just books.
Definitely.
I mean, and Bezos has built it into this thing, like where he's in everything, like grocery store, and what was the most recent thing he just brought out?
Whole Foods. In LA, I work out at LA Fitness every morning. He's got a locker, Amazon Hub locker in LA Fitness. He's got one in gas stations. I mean, the man, a funny story too, because I sell my books on my website, and I remember I was with my niece one Christmas, and I was trying to get some business generated. And I'm telling them, look, buy the books off makeitmove.com. Don't go to Amazon because Jeff Bezos makes enough money. And my niece goes, who the heck is this Jeff Bezos guys? You keep talking about him. So my sister points to the Amazon book, and she's like, look, go pick up that book on Amazon. And
but I mean, that's the thing. But when he started that venture, it was nowhere near where it is today. And, he's obviously continued to build and, continues to innovate what he's doing. You never would have thought that. I would have thought he would have just stayed in books. I mean, I didn't anticipate him going to, because he knocked Borders out, he knocked Barnes and Noble out. There's still a few Barnes and Noble stores around, but he knocked out the in-person bookstores. Now you can just go on, you could get online and like order the book and it could be there. And at that point, it wasn't even next day, wasn't even Prime yet. It was just like, it'll be there in a couple of days. You don't even have to leave your house.
Yeah, he's got
that
it.
was a novelty then. And now, especially after the pandemic, now you have the real novelty of everyone used that. And so they elevated and continued to innovate. So, yeah. But I think, that's what it is you have to continue to innovate, just like you changed jobs and it's because you saw the new opportunity at the place you're at now and saw how that could then take you to the next level and use your skills more effectively to really help them grow too, and then you got to figure out where the next step is once, down beyond that. So what are you thinking? Because I know you do the speaking. Does the speaking drive a lot of your business?
It does. The speaking and also boxing lessons, I still can do those. I can still do boxing lessons. And when speaking is very broad, so when I say speaking, it's more on the workshop basis, figuring out where someone is now and then how we can improve. So in terms of what drives the business, it's the workshops. Like keynotes, I'm open to doing keynotes. I'm open to like just going and giving a speech. But, you can go see a motivational speaker and it could be like a sugar rush. Eventually, you want to get to a point where you're actually helping people get to another level. And that's where the boxing and speaking are kind of in my categories. Because with boxing, that helps kids with every sport. It helps from a fitness standpoint. It helps from a cardiovascular standpoint. And then with the workshops, you're actually helping people to get to another level. So,
yeah. And I think even boxing can do that because it also helps from a confidence standpoint, especially if you've got a kid that is not maybe naturally athletic or gifted or whatever. And like as they continue to do that over and over, then he or she builds those skills and then builds confidence and like, oh, maybe I can do this. You may not be a Muhammad Ali, but that's not what they're there for usually, So yeah,
they can be abusive. I've dealt with women that have been in abusive relationships and they learn the boxing skill and then the confidence grows and things like that. So it crosses over into, like I said, I'm a sports guy, I'm a football guy, but it crosses over into so many aspects of life that, I could probably talk for hours on these things, man.
I'm sure you and I could probably carry that conversation for hours, for sure. So what have been your greatest challenges in your journey so far?
Just I believe not enough people know who I am. When you're out here doing something that is not, that most people don't do, the more challenging thing is figuring out how you're going to generate repeat buyers, repeat business, and find your tribe. It's like I went to 3 or 4 years ago, I went to see Tony Robbins at Unleash the Power Within, like I was telling you about. And the one thing I noticed is he has like a tribe of people. Even when I would talk to them, these are people that I swear by him. I know someone that paid almost $10,000 to go to his business mastery. And he told me that it almost led to a divorce. Like he was almost willing to give up his marriage just to see Tony Robbins. And, again, am I going to get to a Tony Robbins at one point? That's the plan. But when you see how he started and you see the fact that he has like really loyal people, I think the challenge is how do you establish a tribe of people, focus on that niche of people, and then move from there.
Yeah, and I think it's also recognizing it's little steps at a time because one of the challenges, and that's another thing that athletics helps teach, because you don't just get from, you started football at 7 and then go to play college. Obviously you had incremental growth throughout all the years of you playing football. And same thing with me, and I think sometimes it can, and that's a challenge in athletics where, if you want to perfect your forehand, well, you want it now. So, some athletes just go on the court and hit 8,000 forehands in a row and till they get what they want, as long as they're doing the right thing. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges in the entrepreneurial journey is, it's small incremental steps. So you may start a business and you may see, since you came from nothing, you may see this and then it may be here may come back down a little bit. It may come, like it's always going to be that up and down movement, just like athletics is. And you have to, it's slow incremental growth. So most companies are not going to just go from here to like, way up here. And, unfortunately, you hear a lot of the stories on social media or, people sponsor those ads like, become a multimillionaire overnight. Well, no, not really. Like you said, it's how do you build that tribe? Yeah. So you may all of a sudden spike at some point. And so it looks like you became, the multimillionaire overnight. But in truth, you had like 10 years before that you were building that tribe. You were building until you hit that point where it's like,
being possessed. They don't see me sleeping out of a vehicle. They don't see those years. They see the end result.
Yeah. Right. When I was at Cardone's Business Boot Camp, they showed an interesting comparison since we're talking about speaking and, going live and being in front of people and building that audience and building that tribe. He said, and he showed his revenue. So he had one chart that showed revenue and they had one chart that showed his movement on social media and how much he was on social media. So, and they literally correlated like identically. So like, it was like, they would slowly go up, but he wasn't on social media a lot in his, like say 9 years ago or, and it was, they would go up a little, they come back down. And then all of a sudden when he really committed to social media and being on there all the time, that struck up and then the income and the revenue stream went up with it.
Wow.
Because it's all about promote.
You just taught me something. I would think it's, man, yeah, you just taught me something. I would think it's the opposite because sometimes I think social media could be a distraction, but when you look at it from that lens, man.
Yeah, I'll have to find that. I think I have pictures of the, I have to look at my phone. I think I have some photos. If I find them, I'll send them to you of like the two graphs. Cause I was like, and maybe we got a book. So I'll have to look at the book at my house. Because it was fascinating to me. But I mean, it was so interesting just to see because, he's all about promote and promotion, just like Tony Robbins, just like, all of them are in that same, you always see the ads for, I see the ads for Cardone. I see the ads for Tony Robbins. I see the ads for some other big name business coaches that are out there, that maybe I've looked at something of theirs like once, all of a sudden I'm in their ads, so I think it was really interesting to see. So, and what have been your greatest successes so far to date?
The greatest successes, oh man, I just love the fact that I'm able to be at a center that is really focused not on the public school. I think just getting away from that public school system. When I first graduated from Stony Brook, I got a lot of pressure to go and take the normal public school route and go coach high school for 40 years and then, go teach. And, it was tempting, but obviously when you're young, you get these salaries that are thrown at you. But I really wanted to create something different. So the greatest success is, first of all, being in South Florida, which is a long way from Maryland, and I'm absolutely loving it. All of the Latino women and all that. But furthermore, the serious though, just being in a center having the mindset of, just have a kid think differently. I mean, we just finished out. We could talk about it every day in terms of how important it is for us as adults to show kids that there's just something different than the average system. That has been the biggest success.
Yeah, and I think when we can hit kids early, however that is, I worked in social services right out of college, and I worked in a domestic violence shelter, for example, and I saw these women would come in, they would go back to the abuser, they'd come back, so it was always that cycle, the abuser would apologize, I'm going to be different, things are going to change, they go back, and I was like, we could just affect the kids. Like, you've got to start with the kids because unfortunately, I'm not saying write the adults off, but, unfortunately, if you've been through violence in your childhood and then you continue and then you like marry someone or get in a relationship with violence, that cycle, that's what is that cycle. Or whatever, whatever it is. And so if we can affect the kids positively early on, like you're doing, then now they grow up to be healthier adults and,
Mhm.
they pass that on to the future generations too. And I
Right.
think that's a
And just
key.
showing them a different way,
Yeah.
just doing our part, just showing them a different way. Because again, we can't. I mean, we can't solve the problem that they're going through at home, but we could do our part. Just like I was talking to you about my coaches earlier, just knowing that there's another adult that exists that is somewhat productive, you have no idea the way a kid may internalize that. I mean, there are kids coming up to me now that I've only been here a month that they're saying things to me that I would have. I mean, they're mocking me, or there's certain things they're surprising me on certain mornings, and that's really what it's all about. Because it's not if you're in it for the money, I'm telling you right now, you're just in the wrong business. You got to be really in the business of changing lives every day, every moment.
Well, and I think that's any entrepreneurial journey you go into. I mean, people get
Mhm.
into something for, they don't have a passion for it. They saw their friend,
They will.
open this kind of company, and that friend was passionate about what they were doing, but they're like, oh, well, he made all this money, so I'm going to open the same kind of company. I have zero passion for that business. And then they wonder why their business fails. Well, you don't have any passion for it.
Exactly.
I mean, your passion translates into what you do and how you do it. And, that message is so important to the clients, or the kids you're working with. If you have the passion, then
Mhm.
everything else is easy, and it's not like work. So you're not like, oh, I
Right.
have to go work today. I can run my business today,
Exactly.
like then you're really in the wrong thing. So,
You nailed it.
yeah. So what's next for you? Like what are the next moves?
Oh man, the next move is something called. I'm announcing it. I'm decreeing and declaring it right here, Allison.
All
The
right.
Move Swiftly Marathon. The Move Swiftly
Oh,
Marathon. All right. At the moment, I'm gonna be doing my first half marathon, and then I'll be training for a full marathon. So what I want to do is I want to put on a marathon in which it will be a business conference attached to a marathon where you invite people out, you invite a coach and a business, some type of a business sponsor for an actual conference. And then that Sunday, I want to have a marathon where they put a team together and that team runs a marathon, and then the winner gets like 50% of the prize money, and then the other 50% goes back into the youth center. So that the
okay.
next thing, the main way I'm living is going to be through the Move Swiftly Marathon.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I've
Yes, I am
never
putting it
tried the
out there for
marathon.
my
That's
brother.
not on my list to do. Like, I'll support you in
Well,
other
that's what I'm
ways,
saying.
but
The thing is, it's so the way. No, you don't have to run the marathon. So it'd be 26 people per team. So let's say
oh,
you want to run a mile and then give it off to a mile, 26
okay.
people, something like that. So
All
you don't
right,
have to
that's
run
a
the
little
full
better.
marathon unless,
Okay.
or you
Unlike
could put
you,
it
that's
to
training
where
for the
you get
marathon or the half
30
marathon
teams.
right now. So
Yeah, but the thing is, that's what I'm saying. I can't promote it if I haven't ran a marathon myself. Like I can't really plan and do it if I haven't put it out
right.
myself. That's
Yeah.
how stuff works.
Yeah. No, I think it's cool. Yeah, I know Jack and I have talked
Mhm.
about Jack being on the music side, so this is a little different on than the athletic side, but we've talked about potentially doing like Something's Got Talent, kind of like what they do on TV, and doing something that benefits one charity, like usually probably a kids based charity in the local
Right.
area. And kind of creating that show, where they'd have like auditions, and they'd have like, the kind of the levels and the final round, and, really promoting it, getting sponsors, things like that. For the same kind of benefit as what
Hey.
you're talking about, affecting the kids positively. And then, also part of our business, being the music side, launching, maybe it's someone that needs, we could record an album in here. We could do, different things that on the music side where they could get that as like part of their, prize or
We
something.
got the people, we got connections for that actually here. So we just had a high school come in and do a like an art show. It was a dance. They had a couple sing,
Okay.
and I'm gonna say, yeah, we do stuff like that. So yeah, we'll stay in touch for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So any more books coming out?
The plan is to do one more, which is here's the crazy thing. I had my memoir ready before all of the four are out, so the actual memoir will be out. It'll be my fifth, probably my final one when it's time. When I really feel like I can really become a new, like when I can become Stephen A. Smith. That's when you'll hear the memoir. When I get that busy. That's the
Build,
book I'm reading right now. man, I mean, the stuff he's putting in that is crazy. But the memoir is it's just in manuscript form now. But I
Okay.
don't think I have the following yet to drop it.
Yeah. Well, when it's ready and when it's time, and it'll be ready.
Yeah, I plan on doing the traditional publishing route with that one, because the
Okay.
first four were all self-publishing, and finding the marketing for that is a process in itself. So the traditional publishing route is probably what I'll be focusing on with that one.
Well, yeah, and if you have the following at that point, then it'll be a lot easier to go on the traditional publishing route.
Exactly. Support is what you really need.
Yeah, exactly. So I always ask, towards the end of my interviews, like I always ask the same question of everyone. And that question is, if you were going to give one tip to someone who wanted to start a business, could be any kind of business, that maybe either you knew when you started and, it's really helped accelerate your career, or maybe you learned along the way. And once you learned it, you're like, oh, it made it, and maybe not an easier journey, but you could accelerate a little faster. What would that be?
2 words: be yourself. That's it.
I don't think I've had that one.
Be
I like
yourself.
that.
Be yourself. Be yourself. It's so many, and I've heard Robert say this from Shark Tank. So many people get into business for the semantics and the logos and the fancy slogans and the commercials, and so many people do it the wrong way. But if you just be yourself, and you have a personal problem, every person is be themselves and they have personal problems. Fix your problem. I started Gym 44 because I was working as a scout and I was working at a gym. I just fixed the problem. Start a gym in which athletes can come to. Be yourself and fix a problem. And on some level, you're always going to be okay. Even if it makes no money, you're at least going to be yourself.
Right. Which then
we wanted to make money, though.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let me say that. We do. We're entrepreneurs. We do want to.
Yeah. We don't want to do something for free. But no, I think
I had that problem for a couple of years. I did. I had that problem because I was it's so into it. I was literally just doing stuff for free.
Yeah, at some point you gotta know what you're worth. So
right.
And if anyone wanted to get in touch with you, learn more about either your books or your podcast, what's the best way to reach out to you?
The main website is makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. And if you Google the name Aswand Cruickshank, you will see a ton of stuff. I am all over the internet. There's a new YouTube video coming out every single day. I put it all on social media, so I'm very, very accessible. And LinkedIn is the same name.
Yeah, I did see. I actually did Google. I was like, holy crap. There's a lot of content here. I was scrolling through.
Again, I got to thank a guy Jim Baldwin for that. So, it's definitely a lot of stuff now compared to when we first met, for sure.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us today on the Dream Plan Start Grow show. Again, I love working with startup companies and people that maybe want to start a business. So if you have any questions for me, you can go to my website at dreamplanstartgrow.com. I do offer a complimentary consultation. So please take me up on that. All the podcast episodes are there, along with some other videos as well. And I look forward to seeing everyone next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Dream Plan Start Grow podcast with Allison Turner. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. Join the Dream Plan Start Grow community by following us on Facebook or Instagram at Dream Plan Start Grow. See you in the next episode.